Hello world! So we've been talking about organizational design and how different abilities in information processing dictate what level in an organization a person and a task should be located. It has to be correlated with the information processing that's required at that level in order to function effectively. And so if you're hiring someone, if you're assigning a task, if you're retaining a consultant, then you need to be able to match the person with the task. This becomes increasingly important as you rise in the levels because the level of capability is not something that can be trained. You can help someone rise to the maximum that they're capable of functioning at a given point in time, but you can't change their ceiling. That is fixed at any given time, and it progresses in certain ways throughout a person's career. We've started with level 1, the frontline workers, and built our way up through level 4, which is the general manager, who usually has profit and loss accountability, but isn't necessarily spending their time working on the balance sheet, driving the long-term value of the organization. That's where level 5 comes in. There are additional levels, level 5, 6, and 7, that function very, very frequently and visibly within the world of work. And when we get to level 5, we're crossing a really important frontier between the verbal symbolic world and the conceptual abstract world. So I'm going to try to lay out for you what that shift looks like and what it's like to function and to perform tasks at level 5 and above level 5. So this is a really important frontier because we move from working within the organization and within things that we can sort of plan out sequentially on a Gantt chart to things that become much more squishy and much more abstract. When you go to this level, you'll find that even more than other level shifts, there's a sense that this person is working on a different level. Sometimes people will make comments like they seem to be playing three-dimensional chess while the rest of us are playing checkers. Or they might say they have their head in the clouds. But when someone moves to level 5, they're pretty obviously now big idea people. And this difference plays out, this crossing this frontier plays out across different areas of human endeavor. There's a bit of a divide in career tracks, whether people are going into work that is within the organization or they're going into big picture work where they're dealing with global issues. There's a difference in consulting between management consulting, which is implementing best practices or systems within the layers of the company, or strategic consulting, such as famously the big three do, which is more how you're going to steer the organization within the entire market or on the global stage. There's a difference between small business, someone who's starting a small business, and someone who's starting a startup. Certain types of startups need to have a vision for how they're going to change the world in order to attract venture funding. And in order to do that, most likely you're going to need a founder who is able to operate or convince people, as look like they are operating at level 5 or above early in their life, which is challenging and rare, and that's why we assign large amounts of capital to these people that we believe are going to be able to function at a very high level. There's a difference between mid-sized corporations, mid-sized companies with a simple economic model, and large corporations with a global vision. Now, it's not just size. It can also be a smaller company, but can be something that wants to change the world. So if you look at an organization like the International Crisis Group, which is globally known as understanding geopolitics, political risk, and they consult with governments and large corporations around the world. They don't have a lot of employees. I don't know, well below 100 million, a couple hundred employees, but nonetheless, they're small or mid-sized, but they're definitely hiring people, and the work that they do is largely level 5 and above. There's often also a difference in thinking, which we mentioned, and people who are lower, say level 2 and 3, talking to level 5 and above, their eyes will often glaze over, and they really have no understanding of what people are talking about. But then there's also a sort of magnetism, because when you're talking to someone who's thinking at a higher level, you can usually understand that they have access to a set of insights that you simply don't have access to. Or if you are at that level, that they are a peer in their thinking. And that intuition about levels of processing is something that people tend to have at every level. But is this person at my level, above my level, way above my level? That most of us are able to understand that somewhat, but this difference is more pronounced between 4 and 5, or between the verbal symbolic world and the conceptual abstract world. It becomes more pronounced and more visible. So what does work like at level 5? At level 5, for the first time, we are looking not just at what we're doing inside the organization or things that the organization is doing, but we're looking at the company, the organization, as a unified whole system that's operating in an unbounded environment. Our work is now not just on processes, procedures, benchmarks, data, but we work on abstractions. The world of work at level 5 and above is concepts like brand, talent pool, market positioning, international strategy, corporate culture. And this is not just things that we talk about, but they become the objects of direct, intentional, and controlled work. There's less control, the work is less linear, you spend a lot more of your time just exploring big ideas, big drivers of success, the second and third order consequences of any action that you might take, and your planning horizon goes way out. At level 4 and below, it tends to be less than 5 years, whereas above level 5, at a minimum, you are looking at questions that are going to play out over 5 or 10 years. Your responsibility now at level 5 is the balance sheet. It's increasing the long-term value of the organization. And a lot of your work is also in relationships. Relationships matter at any level in an organization, at any work that humans do, because we are human. But above level 5, a lot of the work is building the relationships around the entire world or through the entire space of endeavor, because you're steering an entire company in an entire space. You aren't just building what is inside the company. So what does this mean for you and for your company? Well, regardless of what level you are, I want you to be able to recognize the people, the tasks, the type of problems that need to be handled, need to be placed at level 5 and above. Not every organization needs a level 5. There are some companies that are smaller or have a simpler economic model, and it's very appropriate for them to merely have a general manager or a founder who operates at level 4. But at critical junctures, at critical points in the life of the company, even a small company with a relatively simple economic model, it's critical to have access to people who can think at the higher levels. It's critical to be able to identify and hire the expertise that you need. So if you're scaling, if you're responding to a market shift, if you're rebranding every 10 years or so, or you are contemplating an exit and you want to drive up the value of your company over the next 10 years before you're planning to retire, if you are hiring in a president who needs to be at level 5 or above, if you feel like you've outgrown what you can do within this company and you're bringing someone on, there are all these different points in the life of the company where you need someone who can function in the conceptual abstract world. So I want you to be able to recognize that. That's something that I try to do in my consulting, is provide, when it is needed, the higher level of analysis and understanding, and also to steer clients toward the people who have specific expertise but who are operating at the higher levels at the points in the life of the company when they need it.